elected MLA in May of 2013, and he has an interesting background. He has been a deputy minister in a couple of situations. He's a doctor, he's a lawyer. You haven't been an Indian chief yet?
Not yet.
Anyway, we're glad that he can come here. Let's welcome Minister Wilkinson.
So I guess there's no clip for this, so you have to hold it in this undignified fashion. Anyway, I'm usually someone who doesn't use notes, but I have a bunch of people I have to thank here, so I'm going to bring out the list of people to thank. So we have, of course, Jim Maynard and Peter Vandergrecht, who's over there somewhere, the board chair. Greg Cause, who's right here, our new BCIC CEO. Get to know Greg, because he's the point man for BC government in your sector. And if you don't know Greg, before you leave tonight, introduce yourself to Greg. And of course, our Wavefront. Not immediately. God, they're a quiet bunch. Our executives in residence, David Christie, John Dyack, Brad Lowe, Bill McGraw, Kirk Moore. There are also a whole bunch of other people here who, like Kirk Hamilton, who volunteered their time as executives in residence in various guises around the province. And we are eternally thankful to you. Because one thing that's happened in this sector, when I was a deputy minister 10 years ago, the lament was there weren't enough experienced managers around who learned how to finance and succeed, and who learned how to semi-finance and fail, and know the distinction between the two. Now we have a good, strong cohort of people who've been through the mill and know how to make things work, and we see that in organizations like Wavefront. So we are now blessed with this whole cohort of skilled managers who are prepared to provide a bit of volunteer time to make the sector fly. So we are very thankful to you, and of course as British Columbians we have to say thank you for staying in Vancouver and in the rest of the province, because you're mobile. You can go anywhere. There are opportunities for you all over the world, and you've elected for whatever reason to stay here and help build this sector. Another thing that's happened in my brief experience coming into this role, well, I have to backtrack for a second. Jim is way too kind, because he sees as part of his job is to be nice to us, so we'll be nice to him. So about day 3 of this job, I met my new deputy minister, a guy called John Jacobson, who some of you might know from the sector. Very capable guy. So about day 3 of the job, sat down over at the Premier's office, Jim Maynard came in, and downloaded. And I'm not sure I actually fit in many words, and you're very kind. But at the end of that, Jim left a little bit early because he and I moved fast. And I turned to John and said, so, is that guy for real? Willing to have the answer go either way. And John said, Jim is actually really good. He delivers, he knows what he's talking about, and we're lucky to have him. So thank you, Jim, for sticking with us. And thank you for So that was the prepared part, followed by the spontaneous affection.
We can roast him right now.
That's too easy. So the big picture for all of you, as you well know, is you start off with an idea, you wrap some creativity around it, and then you wonder what to do with it. And you think, should I persevere and hope for the best and work in the dark and not know what's going on? And the fortunate ones in our community have some interconnections with people they know, and they say, you should go to talk to somebody like Wavefront or BCIC. Get yourself connected with one of these accelerators and figure out if you're viable. That is the critical thing that happens in this community that we are so pleased and proud of, and that seems to work. And at that point, you still haven't talked to any kind of these government guys. I see there are 2 of us in the room with ties, and the other guy's your creditor, I think. He's over there. So avoid the people in ties is probably the primary lesson. But once you've got yourself installed in these organizations, we like to think you get the kind of support and the necessary availability of expertise. You have to tell us if these organizations are so great that they should be expanded, because I go back to Cabinet in Victoria and say BCIC works like a charm, it needs more money. They say, yeah, tell that to people in the food bank lineup. So I have to go back with a case that depends upon credibility of organizations like this, which depends upon input from you. So if you need to see this sector expanded, you've got to give us that feedback. Go to Greg, go to Dean, tell them your story, how it works, how you think it's a good thing. And that's tremendous for me to go to meetings and tell them how it could work even better. I just came out of a meeting that was dealing with the ministry as a whole, and essentially got a mandate to try to expand what we do in procurement and in data services much more widely across the province. It just sold because I had a good story to tell. So things can move very quickly in government if we have the right backup and the right story, and we depend upon you to tell us that story. So coming back to that level of perseverance where you get hopefully installed in one of these accelerator groups and you start to move things ahead, the next place we come in, of course, is with the small business venture capital tax credit that de-risks it a bit for angel investors. 30% tax credit that allows investors to take a risk on you, but it's not 100% risk. We actually give them 30% of write-off. Hopefully it's not a write-off. In any case, it's to get them to invest in you at that very early stage. It's not a huge amount that we provide, but it's enough to get people that stage where they're ready to graduate from an accelerator and say, we do have access to enough capital to see if this is going to fly. And then, of course, once you've got yourself into some preliminary financing, we're now looking at an expanded venture capital program for downstream financing. Stay tuned. We're working with the federal government on this. It's not easy, but our goal is to expand the amount of VC available to you on favorable terms, dealing with local VCs, so that you're not having to go to Phoenix or to Boston to try and look for money. We'd rather you were able to cycle around in this community looking for money. Once you've got yourself down that path and you found some customers, then we're so pleased and proud for you. And some of you do very well, and some of you decide to sell your company or you expand your company. And what we are very keen for you to do is cycle yourself back into the ecosystem. Come back in as a mentor, come back in as an advisor, come back in as an investor. Because this sector is doing very, very well in this city, in this economy, which is something we're very pleased with and we want to continue. So as much as anything, I'm saying, I'm just the guy who's the point person in government for you. I need you to have the confidence to invest in this community.